Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are tackling a huge question, one that's shaped, well, pretty much all of human history, and honestly, it seems to defy all logic.
Right, let's just jump straight in. I mean, think about it. Why would anyone, especially a powerful, experienced leader, risk everything? We're talking economies, human lives, their own place in the history books. It just doesn't make sense on the surface. So what's really going on here? What pushes someone with that much power to make a choice that's so devastating?
Okay, so first up, let's look at the textbook answers, right? Political science usually boils this down to a few key things: national interest, security, and of course, the messy game of politics back home. This is kind of the standard playbook for explaining why countries end up in conflict.
And if you look at these examples, a really clear pattern starts to show up. It doesn't matter if it's Putin's dream of a new Russian empire, or Netanyahu's laser focus on security, or even Hun Sen trying to distract from issues at home. There's a common thread, isn't there? External conflict becomes this incredibly powerful tool for holding on to power. It gets people on your side, makes you look strong, and completely shifts what everyone's talking about.
Now look, these political reasons make sense. They're totally part of the story. But they also feel a little cold, don't they? A little detached. They don't quite get to the human at the center of it all, the person, with all their psychology, their biases, their emotions, who actually has to make that final, world-changing call. And that's our cue to dive into the psychology of power. You know, a lot of these leaders have been at the top of their game for decades, and that brings a whole unique set of pressures that can seriously shape how they see the world. It's not really about their age and years, but more about the mindset you develop after a lifetime of making high-stakes decisions. So, when you put these 5 things together, you get this potent mental cocktail. You've got this burning desire to cement your legacy, right? And you mix that with this deep-seated confidence, maybe even overconfidence, that you're the only one who can handle a crisis. Now, add in a circle of advisors who just tell you what you want to hear, and a worldview that sees enemies around every corner. Suddenly, making a huge, aggressive gamble doesn't just seem possible, it starts to feel like the only option. Let's zoom in on that siege mentality for a second, because it's a huge driver here. If you truly believe that you and your people are constantly under attack, then any aggressive move you make can be spun as self-defense. An act of war becomes an act of pure survival. And how do you argue with that? Especially if you're an advisor in that leader's inner circle. It's a really powerful justification. Okay, so we've got the political playbook and the psychology of a leader. But what if I told you there's an even deeper framework? One that comes from ancient philosophy, but is shockingly relevant today. It turns out there's an old Buddhist concept that might just tie all of this together. Yeah, I know, Agata Vastu, 9, sounds like a mouthful. But don't worry, the idea is actually pretty simple. It basically translates to the 9 things that cause anger or resentment. The best way to think about it is like an ancient map. A map of how the human mind creates and holds on to the grudges that can eventually explode into conflict. So this concept lays out 9 really specific ways we do this, 9 thought patterns that are just so human. But here's what's really fascinating. They're all organized by time. How we think about the past, how we react to the present, and how we fear the future. Okay, first up, the past. This is all about replaying old grievances over and over. You can just imagine a leader dwelling on a war their country lost, or a piece of land that was taken away. And notice the shift. It's not just they hurt me, it's they hurt us. And just like that, a personal or historical grudge becomes a national rallying cry. Then, of course, there's the present. This is our reaction to what's happening right here, right now. You know, things like economic sanctions or seeing another country's army doing exercises near your border. These things aren't just news headlines. They're seen as direct, active attacks. And that fuels this immediate anger, this feeling that you have to do something about it. And last, we have the future. And honestly, this might be the most dangerous one of all. It's all about the fear of what your enemy might do. This is where preemptive strikes come from. You convince yourself that they are going to attack you, so the only logical thing to do is attack them first. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy fueled by fear. So here's the big takeaway. It doesn't matter if you're using modern psychology or this ancient philosophy, you end up in the exact same place. The drivers are the same. That obsession with legacy, that's a grudge rooted in the past. Reacting to a current threat, that's a grudge in the present. That big end-of-career gamble to protect the future, that's all about fear of what's coming. It all lines up perfectly.
And this is where it gets really serious. Because when these grudges, these private fears about the past, present, and future, stop being just thoughts in one person's head and become national policy, well, the results are devastating. For all of us.
This quote really just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the core of the problem. Trying to end hatred with more hatred, it just doesn't work. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. All it does is create this endless, vicious cycle where everybody thinks they're the good guy and everybody feels totally justified in striking back. And the cost of that cycle? It's just staggering. I mean, first and foremost, you have the human cost, which you can't even begin to calculate. But then the shockwaves spread out. We all feel it at the gas pump, at the grocery store, as supply chains get tangled up. And then you have to think about what it takes to rebuild a city, a country that was shattered in moments. It takes decades, generations. At the end of the day, the truth is simple. Nobody really wins. So all of this leads us to the big question, probably the most important one there is. Okay, we can see the cycle, we can understand where it comes from, but is there any way to actually break it? Well, what's interesting is that the same ancient framework that diagnoses the problem also offers a potential cure. It's a principle called Averadhamma, and it just means non-hatred. The idea is powerful in its simplicity. The only way to win the game is to stop playing. You break the cycle by choosing not to retaliate, by choosing understanding and dialogue instead. And so that's where we land. We've peeled back the layers, from the cold, hard political calculations to the intense psychological pressures on a leader, and all the way down to these ancient, very human patterns of resentment. Seeing these layers, understanding them, that's the first step. It's absolutely crucial. But the next step, well, that's the really hard one. It leaves us all to think about how we can take this knowledge and actually use it to build a world with less conflict. How do we break this cycle for good?